Hello and welcome to Module 4 of Research and Evaluation. This week we're going to be talking about sampling and experimental designs. But before I begin, I just want to mention that I've received a lot of emails from several of you, and I just want to clarify what the requirements for the course are. I sent out an email on Saturday with just a list of where you can find the expectations and the requirements. But just to reiterate that I will post the discussion threads every week on Monday, along with the lecture and this video. And I would like you to respond to the discussion threads by Wednesday at 5 p.m. And then you all are supposed to respond to your classmates' responses by Friday at 5 p.m. So Wednesday at 5 p.m. and Friday at 5 p.m. are the two times to remember for deadlines. The only exception to this will be during Module 5 next week. I'm going to give you an article that you're going to critique. The specific details about the article critique are listed in your syllabus, and that is due on Thursday at 5. There's no discussion threads that week. And then Module 7 will have another article critique due, and that will be due on the Saturday morning that you'll come for the weekend session. So I think that's October 17th. So those are the only two exceptions. This is all outlined in your syllabus. If you have questions or concerns or any issues, please feel free to contact me, but you got to contact me before the deadline. If it's after the deadline, there's not a lot I can do in terms of making exceptions. So if there's something happening, I know you all have a lot of demands that are competing for your time. So if there is something that happens that you need to discuss with me, please do so before these deadlines, before your assignments are due. Okay, so now getting back to this week's lecture, sampling and experimental designs. All right. When we begin to think about our sample or our participants who's going to be involved in our study, perhaps the first question that comes to our minds might be having to do with resources. So researchers with more resources may attempt to recruit a random sample of participants that best represents the population that's being studied. That's the most ideal situation. So for example, let's consider, the following example. So you're interested in determining whether exposure therapy or just doing cognitive restructuring is more effective in reducing anger with people who participate in individual psychotherapy. Okay, so we're looking at exposure therapy versus cognitive restructuring in people with anger issues in psychotherapy. So if you have a lot of resources, you may select a random group of people. Let's start. The population for this is everybody who's in individual psychotherapy with some anger issues, okay? And we can narrow it down based on other exclusion and inclusion criteria, but let's say that's our population. It's a lot of people. So somebody with a lot of resources might say, you know what, I'm going to sample from, say, 8 different clinics across the country. So one clinic in California, one clinic in Florida, one clinic in Massachusetts, one clinic in Oklahoma, maybe a clinic in New York. So this would be considered random selection. You're taking the whole population of the United States and you're selecting people from different areas that would represent the entire population. That's a lot of resources, though, to be able to go to that many places to recruit and to have these studies going on. Okay, so let's say you're like most of us with a few resources. What do you kind of do to make do? Well, you might select those patients who are in the waiting rooms of your local mental health clinic, and you figure out if they meet your inclusion the criteria that you want to be included in the study. For example, they have these anger issues, and they're involved in individual psychotherapy. But you get these people from your local mental health clinic in, let's say, Boston and Dedham and Framingham. The generalizability isn't as strong because everybody's from kind of local Massachusetts areas, but it's a resource issue. So you give and take. So let's say that we have a lot of resources and we go the random selection kind of ideal situation route. Once we have our sample, you have to decide what method you're going to use to evaluate the effect of your dependent variable. Okay, so for example, you have your study coordinator randomly assign your participants to either the exposure therapy group or the cognitive restructuring group. So now you have your two groups, and your study coordinator does it. There's no effect for the individual therapist on the results. Okay, so then assessments are conducted before you start your first exposure or cognitive restructuring session, and that is designed to give you sort of a baseline measure. What does this person look like without the intervention? You go through the intervention, so you either do the exposure therapy or you do the cognitive restructuring, and you give another assessment. That's called post-treatment assessment or post-test. So you have your pre-test and then you have your post-test. And let's say we go one better and we're looking at longer term effectiveness. So we do a 1-year follow-up as well. This would be an example of a pre-test, post-test design. So we had random selection of our participants initially, and then and random sampling, and then we had random assignment to our groups, and then we have the two groups, and we do pre and post-test. That's our design, the pre and post-test design, and that's the way that we do the sampling piece and the design piece. Well, it seems pretty easy kind of talking about it in this abstract. So what I would like you to do for this week is, as you review the readings from the text, think about how this actually applies to your specific research proposal. I have also assigned an article for you to read just to be able to show how it plays out in a peer-reviewed journal article, and the discussion thread for this week focuses on that article, so please do be sure to read it. A link to that article is on the syllabus on the homepage of the course website. If you have any problems at all, please email or call me before it's due on Wednesday at 5 p.m. And then once everyone has posted their responses to the discussion thread on Wednesday, you have until Friday to post responses to your classmates' threads. All right, so thank you very much. And again, there's the text, the article, and there's PowerPoints for you to review this week. Have a great week and contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.